And the next one we will see, this is the feathering direction. That means the shadow directions. You can control this from here. This is inside. Okay, this is inside means you see the shadow effect. It has the shadow. You can see the shadow effect, but it is from inside this particular object. Okay, if you bring this exactly to the center, see you won't see any shadow effect here. Okay, because that's behind this object. The shadow is there, but it's behind the object, and the option what we have selected here is inside. That means the shadow is always behind the object. Okay, so if you select inside, that shadow is inside this object and it disappears because you won't be able to see because it's behind the object. Okay, and I have kept this in center, so this is in center. If I slightly move it outside the object, you can see a slight shadow effect. Okay, this is how you see. So I'll keep it in center to see other options. Okay, this is inside. If I click on middle, the shadow is in the middle. That means it is in the middle. Here, this is the middle path of a shadow. The border what you see here of an object, that's the middle path of shadow. Okay, because normally the shadow starts from the middle and its end somewhere outside the object. Okay, and this is the middle. You can call it as a middle path, middle of a shadow. So this is the middle. Okay, and if you select outside, now you see there is a lot of shadow come out of an object. So there is a lot of spreading of an shadow from an object. That's outside. Average means it calculates and gives the exact natural shadow effect to an object. That's the average. But default we use middle, so that the middle is a better option for a shadow effect. Okay, this is what we select, middle. And these are some other effect: feathering edges. This is linear, this is squared, this is inverse square, and this is flat. Flat, you see there is a flat shadow. Once the shadow effect is not exactly a shadow effect here, it becomes a kind of an object which is placed behind your original object. So linear is a better option for a shadow effect. In square also there is a slight changes in the shadow effect in square. These are other few effects for shadows. And the next is, now when you let's don't get confused, because when you are not selecting this particular shadow effect object and you click on this object, see it selects only the object, and here on the top you won't find the shadow effect options. And if I click here, then if I click on this particular tool on the select drop shadow tool, then I get all the options. Because as soon as you select the object, and as soon as you select this particular drop shadow tool, the tool option changes here and the object gets selected with the shadow. See, as you select this tool here, when you while selecting an object, and when you select this tool here, and if the object has a shadow effect, this particular tool you get on your object, that's the shadow tool. Okay, and all the shadow effects you get on here on the top toolbar. Okay, now next is these are the different shadow effects you can say. If you select normal, it's normal. If you select add, there is a slight difference in the shadow which is not visible. This is subtract. These are the shadow effect changes here. These are multiple different effects which you can give to shadow. Okay, in multiple, it multiplies the shadow with your background. Divide means again it is the shadow effect is almost disappeared. Lighter, darker, again you'll get some bright shadow. So if you move this, you'll get some shadow effect. Texture. These are various effects. As and when you start designing something on your CorelDRAW, you will get to know the use of all these effects, because you need to add 2 to 3 multiple objects to each other, then you can give these effects to that. Otherwise, normally this is the normal effect what we use for shadow. As soon as you select normal, you get the shadow. Okay, now beside that is the shadow color. Suppose if you want the shadow color to be changed to something else, you can change that from here. If I want it blue, green, red, whatever color I want, I can put it, but black is the best for shadow effect. And if you want to completely remove the shadow effect from this object, this is clear drop shadow, the last two. Click clear drop shadow, it clears the shadow effect from an object. So these are the shadow effect too. Okay, now we'll see this. Now we have seen the shadow effect. See, I'll put a shadow effect to this particular object. Okay, there is a shadow behind this. Now suppose if I plan to separate this shadow from this object. Okay, separate this shadow means I want the shadow to be a different object, and this object which I have drawn to be different. Now if you move this object, the shadow keeps moving along with that, with your object. Okay, now I do not want this. I want to move this object, but the shadow to remain at its place, so that I can squeeze it, change the size, and place it wherever I want. So what I need to do is I need to select the object. See, if you select only the object, the shadow doesn't get selected, and the tool options here doesn't change. Okay, shadow tool option, it doesn't show the shadow tool options. So what I need to do is I have to select the, other than this object on my sheet, I need to select the shadow effect here in the behind the object. What you see, this darker shade, that is the shadow effect. I need to select that. I will keep my cursor just outside the object and click on this shadow effects. So the object is selected along with the shadow effect. Now as soon as I select this, the entire object is selected with shadow effect. Now what I need to do is, as I had shown in the last few chapters also, there's a command here in arrange. You will find this break drop shadow group apart. Okay, this is the command here. You see, a command or tool, you can say. This is as you click this, it separates the shortcut for which is Control K. Okay, just remember Control K. As you click this, it now both the objects are separated. Okay, now these are two different objects. Now you click this object here and you move, the shadow remains at in its place, and the objects keeps moving. Now you can even if you increase or decrease the object size, it doesn't change along with your shadow effect. Now shadow, you can change it as you require. Okay, now this has become an object. Now even if you go to shadow effect, you cannot change the effects of this shadow, because it is now separated with your original object. This is how you can separate a shadow from your object. Okay, now we'll draw another object and we'll see the shadow effect on that. I'll draw a circle here. I'll put some color to this. Okay, even if I want, I can remove the outline so that I get a better look of the shadow. I'll go to the shadow drop shadow tool here. Now shadow can be from anywhere, either from the center or from the edges of an object. Okay, this is applicable to the square also. What I have shown the square, that is this kind of dragging from center or from the edges, this can be done to square or to any other shape. Okay, I can even drag my shadow from the edge. See, if I drag it from edge, the shadow starts from there. I dragged it from bottom edge, so it has the shadow effect is started from there. Okay, see, this is the way I can give the shadow effect. As soon as I give some effect, it looks like an object has been placed on some surface. Okay, drag it here, and if I want, I can change the shadow look by dragging this tool, the shadow tools here, or I can, if you want to change the feather, I can do that from here. You can do it from here also, and if I want to change the feather thing, I can do it from here. Okay, now if I need to change the color, I can do it from because black is the best suitable for a shadow effect. Okay, now you'll see a ball is there and it's flying in the air and the shadow of that is on the surface. This is how you can give the shadow effect. Okay, now suppose if I want shadow from the top edge, I can move here from the top mouse, I can get the shadow from top, or from right I can do the same thing. If I want center, I'll drag my mouse from the center of an object. In the same way, suppose here in the bottom I kept a shadow, and if some need gap in between here, in between the object and the shadow, what I'll do is I'll select the entire object along with the shadow. As I said, if you want to select an object along with the shadow, you need to click on the shadow, then only the object is selected with the shadow. And I'll separate this by going on arrange and break drop shadow apart. Now this object is separated from the shadow. See, now I can move this anywhere I want to. I'll create a gap here, and if I want I can reduce the size also. Okay, so once you separate the shadow, you cannot make any changes to that. Okay, it should be as it. You can only change the size or placing, but you won't be able to change the color or the feather effect of the shadow. This is how you use the drop shadow. Okay, now again if you want to add the shadow, again you need to drag your mouse on this object. Then only you will give a new effect to the object, to shadow effect to an object.